Hey, this is Ian, and this is going to be China versus Korea. So if you're thinking about teaching English in China or Korea, then this is for you, alright? Okay, first thing we're going to cover is the qualifications, okay? Generally speaking, to teach English in these places, you need to have a university degree and to be a native English speaker, right? Those are the general qualifications for most schools and whatnot. However, it can depend. Some schools can prefer TEFL certification, especially if you don't have experience. Each school is a little different, okay? So some schools can prefer teachers with experience, or one job or one school might want you to have a master's degree, maybe in university, like in Korea or something. Okay, next one, work schedule. What's the work schedule like? Pretty similar. I say the difference is, now, you have different kinds of schools that you work in. There's private schools, there's universities, there's public schools. In China, I'd say if you teach in a private school, you might be working a 6-day work week. Although, again, all this that I'm telling you right now really depends on the school, just based on my experience teaching in these places, the kind of jobs that I've seen and whatnot. Okay? But in China, you might work 6 days a week over the weekends. During the week, you might have a light schedule, maybe just teaching a couple hours a day, and then have a couple days off or 1 or 2 days off during the week. It really depends on the school, But now in Korea, more Monday to Friday, but it's still possible if you work in a Hagwon, a private school, that you could work on a Saturday or something. I never did. I just worked Monday to Friday. In Korea, I taught in both public and private schools, Hagwons, So, and then public schools is some more like 8 to 5 or 8:30 to 4:30 kind of job. So those are kind of your options. If most like kindergartens, you work in a kindergarten, it might be more like a 9 to 6, like a private school. Some of these kindergartens have teach really, really young kids in the early morning, and then after school hours, like some of the elementary kids will come to the school and you could be teaching them. Those are more like 9 to 5-ish, like in Korea, kind of some jobs like that. But other, like Hagwon, like the hours are usually later, like 2 to 8 or 2 to 9 or something like that, Okay, cost of living. Okay, cost of living is going to be cheaper to teach in China, to live in China. The cost of living is cheaper, except for maybe in a really big city. If you're in like Beijing or Shanghai, those places can be pretty pricey. I lived in Shanghai, and I don't know, it's all right. You can find cheap places though in China, and you can find cheap food. You can get noodles on the street for like $1 or something. Food for really cheap in China. Korea, you're gonna pay more for food and stuff like that. Although I think if you go to a grocery store and you shop, my memory was it's kind of similar. It's not that different. But if you're eating out on the street or eating in restaurants, there's a difference there. But it really depends. Like even in China, you can find high-end restaurants too. It depends on the city you're in. If you're in a really small city, then things are gonna be really cheap. So that's the cost of living. And like housing and stuff in Korea, you usually get free housing, so you don't have to worry about that. Some schools in China do the free housing thing, but if you end up in a big city like Beijing or Shanghai, less likely that you'll get free housing. Usually outside of those cities, a lot of the full-time jobs will offer free housing. Korea, pretty much across the board, majority of schools will offer free housing. So you're not paying for rent, so you just gotta hire you gotta pay bills and stuff, utility bills and whatnot. But yeah. So what kind of schools can you work in? So again, I mentioned before, there's public schools, there's private schools, there's universities, there's international schools. To teach in international schools, you usually have a teaching license from your country. That's what you usually need to teach in international school. These are like higher end jobs. In a university in China, it's easier to get into than a university in Korea. In Korea, you usually need to have a lot of experience to get into a university, and sometimes a master's degree or related kind of teaching degree or something. In China, yeah, experience is going to help you, but it's a little bit easier to get into a university there. Now, public schools, private schools, I mentioned earlier the hours, pretty much 8 to 4-ish, something like that. Private schools usually is more of an evening kind of job, but if you teach like adults, you could be working like split shifts or something, or kindergarten, like I mentioned before. At schools, the job market, I'd say in China it's probably better, but that's not to say that I'd say it's still pretty good in Korea, just maybe a little bit more competitive. You know, you're gonna make more money. Probably gonna make more money. That's one subject I forgot. You're probably gonna make more money in Korea because there's a lot of benefits. You know, there's what do you get? You get severance. You get free airfare. You get free housing, pension pay. End of the year, you know, your final paycheck, you get a severance pay, which is another paycheck, month's pay, and then your pension pay. If you're there for a year, could be well over $1,000. You know, not everybody gets his pension though. So, and then you get free airfare. China, you don't really get. You get some benefits, like some teachers, they'll get a airfare reimbursement, which is basically like they're not going to pay for your ticket there, but after you finish a year there, then they'll give you some money or a ticket home or money for a ticket home or something. So that's the money situation. You can make anywhere from you're gonna make more on average in Korea, but China's got a lot of variety. You're in a big city, and you know, getting in some private schools can be pretty high paying. Make over $2,000 a month. Just working in one school, or you want to juggle a couple jobs, you could make over that. But I'd say for the most part, you're looking at like 10, 11,000 RMB. You can look that up, how much that is. An average pay. You work in a university in China or public school, you're going to make a little bit less. And if you're out in a small city or something, you'll make less then too. So, and then Korea's like, I don't know, on average, what, 2.1 million won? Depends on the school or something. And the exchange rate, you can look that up, 2.1 million won. Okay, environment. Korea's pretty small. It's like a peninsula. China's big, right? It's a big country. You get a lot of different kind of environments. You get the Himalayas in the west. You get desert up north. The most populated part of China is like the east coast, east and the south. So a lot of mountains. You get a diversity. You get a lot of different stuff going on in China. It's a big country. I've only seen really relatively small. Korea is mostly mountainous. You'll see snow in most places. Unless you're down in Busan or Jeju, you might not see snow. Maybe up in the mountains. I saw it snow one time when I was in Busan, and I was there for like more than 2 years. And I was in a smaller city called Changwon for like 7-8 months, something like that. And it snowed there, and that was only like an hour from Busan. Stuck on the ground, but mostly Busan, it's a little warmer than say Seoul. You'll definitely see it's colder there. And China, like both places, say like it's gonna be hot and humid in the summer. This is kind of the weather, unless you're like way west of China or something, like up in the Himalayas or Lhasa, Tibet, something like that. So that's the environment. Mosquitoes, pollution. China's gonna be more polluted than Korea. Like the first thing I went to Korea, what I liked about it is that it was a lot quieter, and I thought it was cleaner than Taiwan. You know, people smoking and stuff like that. Restaurants, people will throw their cigarette butts in the restaurant floor, their napkins on the floor in China. Smoking also in Korea. China's got some serious problems with pollution. Korea's better, not the best. In Asia, Japan or Singapore are going to be the best. Okay, language learning, like I say, Mandarin. Most people speak Mandarin in China, but there's a lot of different dialects of Chinese, and there's Cantonese in the southwest, down by Hong Kong and Guangdong province. You know, in Korea, some people say it's like simpler, easier to read and whatnot. I was really interested in it personally. Much more interested in Chinese and Mandarin. That's fun. I thought people were really friendly. Want to help you try to learn the language and stuff like that. But you got to be interested in stuff. You're not just going to learn because you're there. You're gonna be interested. Okay, international. China's more international, I think. But I'm referring to like the cities in China. That's kind of my experience. I imagine anywhere. Like I lived in a bigger city. I lived in Shanghai and I lived in Busan and in Korea I was in a small city, Changwon, and traveled around China some. I thought China's just kind of more international in a way. Like Korea's like you still get influence from outside, but it's just more Korean. And China seemed like, I don't know, just the people there doing different things, other foreigners there doing different things, and I don't know, that's what I just thought. Culture shock, you get in both places, depends where you are in each place. I kind of touched on this, depending on the city, the country, how rural you are. The bigger city you're going to be in, the less culture shock you're going to get. It's still going to be different, but people won't see you as differently too. If you're in a big city, you're not going to be like the only foreigner there. But if you go to a smaller city or whatnot, people are staring at you and stuff like that. So culture shock. If you're afraid of being in, getting your, jumping in, then maybe stick to a big city because you'll probably get less culture shock there. I mean, it's still going to be different. You get a different country, different language, different customs, all that. But anyways, that's my 2 cents on China versus Korea. I personally prefer China to Korea. Korea is more comfortable, I think. It's better for money. It's cleaner. But the culture is not as interesting for me. So, there you have it. Have a good one. Ian here, and we're going to do a little scratchy.